Hey, business building warrior, got a treat for you today. It's a three-way conversation with Brian Olson, one of our coaching team leaders around here. You hear him along with his wife, Robin Joy, all the time on our show, about once a week, the Coach's Corner episodes, and they've helped create a lot of content in our community. They were presenters at our conference here recently, very popular in our community because they just really break concepts down into simple, newbie-friendly, Amazon selling step-by-step strategy type of content, and they're beloved in our community. So I've got Brian here tonight. Robin Joy wasn't able to make it, but we've also got Jimmy Smith. He's here with us, and he's the guy who initially put the replens concept into a step-by-step format for our community. And between the three of us, we're going to dive into a couple of interesting topics that I think you're really going to enjoy. One is a recent change that Amazon has made in how they rank products in their catalog, and what that means for us in regards to making good decisions about what products it makes the most sense to invest in. As resellers, which is about 60% of Amazon's catalog, selling stuff that doesn't belong to us, there's only two ways to sell on Amazon, you do realize, just to back up for a moment. Either selling a brand that belongs to you or selling a brand that belongs to someone else. Resellers sell brands that belong to other people. And by the way, that's what Walmart does. That's what Target does. That's what all the major retail stores do. We just do it at a smaller scale. Some of us with multiple seven-figure businesses, mind you, but a much smaller scale, selling other people's stuff. Well, how do you know what stuff to buy? One of the key metrics we've used over the years has involved product rank. Well, the game's changed slightly. Not as much as you might think initially when you first hear us discussing it. So hang in there for that part of the conversation. It's a fun topic for sure. And then we shift, and I kind of surprised the guys. I didn't tell them I was going to do this in advance. And we talk a little bit about the impact of AI on these kinds of decisions. Is AI going to help us make these decisions in the future as sellers? What are the pros and the cons? What's available to us now? What will probably never be available to us? And we don't all necessarily agree. It's kind of a fun, jumbled conversation a little bit, but I think you'll really enjoy and benefit from it. How do you feel about it? We're kind of predicting the future here a little bit, but it was a fun conversation. So two great points of conversation today between the three-way panel here. And if you enjoyed this, hey, would you please leave us a review after you hear this episode? Leave us a review wherever you listen, if it's on Spotify or iTunes, or maybe you're catching us on YouTube. Some people watch the episodes. Most of our community just listens on their favorite podcast app, and we're so grateful for you doing that. Hey, a couple quick announcements before I bring Brian and Jimmy onto the screen with me here and into the audio. First, we've got a virtual conference coming up, August 15th and 16th. Very low cost to you, by the way, as a listener of this show. Most people are going to be paying $100 for this thing. For you, it's just $7. I've got a discount code. I'm going to give it to you in the notes of today's episode. Scroll down and look for the link to theprovenconference.com. Now, this is a virtual event. We just had our live event in Orlando a few weeks ago, but this is a virtual event. You can stay home, watch it live, or just watch the recordings afterwards, but you got to get in the door to get this content. Theprovenconference.com has details. It's going to help you get ready for the fourth quarter, the busiest shopping season of the year. And we're going to equip you with some of the latest strategies for finding bulk ASINs, bulk products, multiple products at once that you can turn over to software to allow to track for you and know which products you should and shouldn't be buying more of. We've really made some advancements lately in our community in that area. We're going to teach you how we're doing it, how our top students are doing it. That's all going to be part of that and much more. The Proven Conference, August 15th and 16th. Look for the link in the show notes today for that information. Brian and Robin Joy also have a book coming out. I'll stick a link to that in the show notes as well. For those of you who know them, you know it's going to be a great investment. There's a link, look for that. And the last announcement is the price of the Proven Amazon course is going up very soon. We've been $39 a month for a long time. If you're locked in at that rate, you'll always have that rate. Lock that rate in now. We will be raising the price soon. If you're not a Proven Amazon course student yet, you need to be. We continue to pour value into that course. Just today, for example, we put all 48 videos from our recent conference into the Proven Amazon course library, along with tens of thousands of dollars of other great content. Just what you need when you need it. That's the theme of our community, of our Proven Amazon course community. So we're always adding new content. And just today, we added the entire event from just a few weeks ago. So for $39 a month, currently going up soon for new members, lock in that rate and you get all of that. You get all the improvements, all the future updates. We've got proven Amazon course students from well over a decade ago, still paying a low rate every month, but it's time for a price increase to take good care of our team. So that's coming. Get over to provenamazoncourse.com before that price increase. That's the last, I promise, that's the last announcement. I'm going to get my panel together right now. We're going to kick it off and jump right into a conversation about some of these changes and how Amazon is ranking products in the catalog and what that means for us, those of us who use Keepa, which is one of the preferred tools in helping us make really good decisions about which inventory we're going to invest in as brand new sellers or even as very advanced sellers. So let's jump in and enjoy this conversation. Thanks for being here with us. All right, so Jimmy and Brian, welcome, guys. Let's get into it. What do you think?
Yeah, let's roll. Good to see you, Jimmy.
Yeah, good to see you too, Brian.
Thanks for having us, Jim.
Yeah, of course. Always good time to hang out with you guys.
Well, so I'm sure you're wondering, why did I ask you here?
Exactly. Just like when you get on an elevator, right?
That's right. We meet again. Yes, here we are. We meet again. Well, there was a change recently, fairly recently, actually just before the Proven Conference of this year, that while we were actually teaching at the conference, I noticed some strange things going or looking on a Keepa chart, but I thought maybe it was a glitch because I didn't notice it as much on every ASIN. But over the last few weeks, I've been able to confirm that there have been some changes in terms of the way that Amazon is reporting sales data, and primarily around sales rank. And with sales rank, they're actually making the platform more fair for everybody. Because the way that it used to work before this recent update is that you could sort of game the system as a reseller, as a brand owner, as an agency even, where you could run ad campaigns or send a lot of traffic and get a lot of sales, and it would really mess with the sales rank of your product and other products within the category that it lived in, and then change the search results that people would see on Amazon. And this was really something that Amazon didn't like. They don't like us to game the system, right? They like them to be in control of the system. And so they have what they call their algorithm, their platform algorithm, search algorithm, known in the space as A9. And they did some updates they rolled out A10 a while back, and they made an update to this A10 algorithm recently, around the middle to the end of May, that did change the way that the best seller rank is being calculated and advertised to our main source of truth here is Keepa, right? So they're reporting the BSR to Keepa, and historically we've looked at sales rank drops as the main way to gauge, or as a primary way to gauge sales velocity. Well, with this change, Amazon's really sort of taken out the ability to game the system, and they normalize rankings over a longer period of time. And so the sort of sales rank drops that we used to see, they're still there. They don't mean as much anymore. And so I thought it'd be good for us to just kind of talk about it here for a minute.
Absolutely.
So here we are.
So I think what we're seeing, Brian, you wrote a great report. We'll include that in the show notes today for folks. They can go take a look at it. But I think bottom line is two things. First, to start at the bare basics, if someone's new, Amazon doesn't typically tell us, up until recently, they'd never told us how many times per month anything sold. So we had to guess.
Mm-hmm.
Well, two things have changed in the past year or so, this being the second one. The first change is they're starting to tell us, hey, this thing sold 50 times last month. This thing sold 100 times last month. That's a great data point. Thank you for the additional information. That helps us make good decisions as sellers. The only reason we relied on drops is we didn't know how fast stuff was selling, and we figured rank drops means sales are happening, and we kind of calculated based on that. Well, what's changing now is, correct me if I'm wrong, but those ranks aren't changing as often. So they're less reliable than they were before, and they were never completely reliable, but they're even less reliable now. Is that accurately stated based on what you've discovered so far?
Yeah, I think it is. And in fact, you know how everything sort of, there's a pendulum that swings back and forth in almost everything that we do. And I remember when I first sort of got into the Amazon business 7 years ago, there used to be these rank charts that were distributed throughout multiple communities. And it would be like, it would say things like, if this product is ranked this, 1,000 to 5,000, you can estimate about these amount of sales, 5,000 to 10,000, right? And so
We
now,
had those charts.
right, right. Well, guess what? Dust them off
Yeah.
because
Yeah. They're making a comeback.
they are making a comeback, right? With the rank not changing as frequently as it used to. It was always a point in time reference. And I think it's still a point in time reference, but because it's being normalized over a longer period of time, that you may see that the sales rank really of a product doesn't really change that much, even over a 90-day period. And it's because they're normalizing the activity of those sales instead of the spikes that go up and down in terms of, that product relative to other in its category. Now they're going to go back and normalize that data. So those sales rank charts, yes, dust them off. They're coming back.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Well, I brought Jimmy on as well, and I mentioned him in the introduction, but we briefly ran this past him, and he's the guy who helped us first formalize the content of the replens concept. And I just briefly, through a text conversation, we'd established today that he hasn't really been using drops as a significant factor for quite some time, and most of the advanced sellers don't. But I think it's one of the easy anchor points that we've kind of taught, like, hey, 30 drops a month, that means, 30 rank changes per month. It's selling at a decent clip. And we've kind of taught sellers in little ancillary side comments here and there. That's something you can look at. We're going to be looking at it less. But thankfully, our content and our training has been kind of drifting away from it from a while now. And that text conversation I alluded to with you, Jimmy, put a little more meat on that. How reliant are we on drops as a community, as a concept for replens? How big a deal is this?
Yeah, I think from the standpoint of whenever a course is created, right, you have to, like the replens course, you have to figure out how do you make it as proven and safe as possible for anybody that's going through it. And so we utilize sales rank drops and specifically higher numbers a lot of times to help new sellers be protected so that they don't get on something that's selling super slow and they didn't realize it. And so the sales rank drops were always nice to use. But as you get more experienced into Amazon selling, you kind of realize that those drops really are also a snapshot in time based on whenever Keepa would collect that data. So while, Jim, you had mentioned that the sales rank isn't as reliable, I think that what we're talking more about is the sales rank drops aren't reliable like they used to be. The sales rank is actually...
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, the sales rank is actually more reliable now, which is good. And that's why we're kind of going a little bit back to some of the sales rank charts potentially. Now, the reason that I say that it doesn't really change much with my own sourcing or even how I've trained it is because the sales rank drops are just that. I mean, they are the drops that Keepa is seeing, but it's not collecting data by the minute. And so one drop could mean 5 sales, could mean 10 sales, could have meant anything. So the way that I typically judge velocity is if the sales rank is fairly consistent. So if you see that green line on a Keepa chart and it's going up and down consistently, then that means it's selling. If you see new offer counts or seller counts starting to go up and down regularly, usually that means it's selling. If you see review counts going up, that means it's selling. So there's a lot of different ways to judge if a product is selling. And from my perspective, for new sellers and experienced sellers, it's not about finding the exact amount of sales a product has. It's more about how do we find a product with a Keepa chart that looks like it sells well, and then we test it and actually find out the velocity for ourselves. And so from the standpoint of evaluating Keepa charts, to me, it doesn't change much unless you had a parameter of you have to have X amount of drops, in which case you're going to need to change a little bit in how you evaluate those products. So that's kind of my perspective on it.
Two quick things before I turn it back to Brian. I'm sure he's got a couple things too, but the other thing that I've been looking at a lot lately is the inventory levels of the other sellers. That's another thing you can look at. I mean, you can see that in Keepa data, and several tools report that as well. And again, I think the only people who are going to be a little nervous about this are going to be the newest sellers who have said, okay, if it's not 15 drops or 20 drops or whatever that line in the sand is, but we've known for years that you could be looking at a ASIN that Keepa reports 5 drops a month, let's say, and that thing's flying off the shelf, right? So the low numbers have always been, do I want to take a gamble or not? Some of our favorite ASINs are the ones where Keepa says, this is a slow mover. You look at the drop count and it looks like a slow mover, but then you look at the other indicators and no, this thing is a fast mover. So we've never been that reliant on drops, but I'm glad we're having this discussion and glad we're clarifying this. So what else is popping in your head, Brian, as you heard Jimmy and I bounce that around?
Well, first of all, let me just say, I'm not usually sitting in the middle of this screen, and I'm noticing that like my laptop screen is just glaring off my glasses, so I apologize.
I hadn't even noticed.
My eyeballs.
Yeah.
Usually I'm off to the side and it doesn't really matter.
But you usually got Robin Joy there to kind of
Yes.
buffer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So a couple of things. You mentioned last year, Jim, that Amazon introduced this new metric that is like the sold in the last 30 days metric. And Keepa started tracking that, giving it to us on a Keepa chart, which was awesome. Everyone was like, oh, this solves our problem. We already know. Now we can determine how many units this sells. And there's a couple of things about that. One is when it first released, it wasn't an attribute that was associated with a lot of ASINs. In fact, for several months after it came out, I was tracking sort of what percentage of ASINs had a say minimum of 50 drops, because that's the lowest that you can do, compared to how many ASINs had 50 units sold in the last 30 days being 50 units or more, compared to how many ASINs had 30 rank drops or more. And the disparity was wide. Like 70% of the ASINs that I would look up, say, had 30 sales rank drops, but only 30% of those ASINs would actually have the metric that was sold more than 50.
That yellow line in the middle.
The yellow line, right.
What a lot of us call it, yeah.
However, over the last couple of weeks, the exact opposite is true. And I didn't look for a long time because I was like, Amazon's slowly rolling this out. Someday they'll make an announcement. And they didn't. Well, they just kept adding that attribute to more and more ASINs. And so today, it's almost the exact opposite. The number of ASINs that, say if I look up total ASINs in a category, the number of ASINs that have 50 sales rank drops is much higher than the ASINs that, I keep saying sales rank drops, but what I mean is sold in the last 30. It's old school lingo of this habit. I'm going to have to break it, right? 50 sold in the last 30 days or more, but a lot small, like only 30% of those are having 30 sales rank drops. So they've really rolled this attribute out to a lot more ASINs, and maybe it's on all of them where it applies these days. Like we will never know for sure. I'm sure we're still going to have some ASINs where it doesn't have that metric, and we know that it still sells well because we've experienced it. And Jimmy, I love your point about the only way to really know is to test it. And that's the best thing. We're just trying to stack the deck in our favor so we won't get into trouble and we go, well, I thought this was going to be amazing. And 9 months later, my inventory is still sitting in the warehouse, right? Because the unit just doesn't sell. The ASIN just doesn't sell.
Yeah. And to clarify for new listeners too, by no means are we saying fast selling ASINs are the only ones you should be on.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my favorites are, as far as I know, the thing only sells 10 times a month and I'm getting a third of those sales maybe any given month. And I love it. It's a great ASIN. So there's no magic metric here that says, oh, unless it's doing X per month, stay away. It's all just about knowing with as much clarity as possible what you're getting yourself into. And for me, it's all about the escape strategy. Like, if I have to drop my price, is it going to sell? If I got to get my money out of this thing, how quickly can I do so? Right. That's why I want to know the velocity of any given ASIN. What's my worst case scenario? Because you don't want to be sitting on an ASIN that even if you drop your price, it still sits there. That's exactly trouble. Right. Let's avoid that. That's the worst case scenario. I drop my price into the tank and it's still just sitting there. Stay away from those, especially if you're new. That's why the velocity thing is important. One of the searches that I've done for several months now, once a week or so, I try to check in and test it. And it's signaling that what you just said, Brian, is true, that Amazon is more reliably reporting that yellow line, that total units sold per month. That line's getting more and more accurate, while the drop count metric is getting less accurate. Because what I like to do is I just go in and say, how big is that pool of ASINs that have no FBA sellers and are dropping at least X times per month? In my case, I think I use 20 times per month. I've got a few different searches I do. That metric has been dropping dramatically lately. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, surely those products aren't all going away. What's going on? Well, when I switch that to 50 drops or more per month, 50 sales per month, see, there I go. Mm-hmm. Yep. 50 sales per month, that yellow line in the middle of the Keepa chart, when I switch it to that metric and do the same 0 FBA, now there's all kinds of products out there suddenly. So the tide is really turning, where I think what we're heading towards, if the momentum continues in this direction, is anything that sells more than 50 times per month in Amazon's catalog, they're going to let us know. And you'll be able to see it right there on the screen. And, 100 times a month, 200, 500. And that's great. It doesn't really change the game a lot, except it just makes it a lot easier to know what you're getting into.
Mm-hmm.
Did I say all that accurately? Did anything else pop into either of your heads as I was kind of going through that? Because there's still, just to be clear, there's still millions of underserved ASINs. That hasn't changed. The catalog is still expanding rapidly. That hasn't changed. Just the way we come to the conclusion about the velocity of any given ASIN has shifted 5 degrees, maybe, of 5%.
Yeah, and I would say the other thing, I mean, I love to sell on products that have no sales rank at all. So sales rank drops would never even show up. And so there's so many different ways to calculate the velocity. That's part of what we train on, right, in this community is being able to tell that. And we'll continue to do that. But the other thing is, for a long time now, we've also seen that Keepa, based on the buy box price, doesn't 100% matter for where you're going to sell that product either, because of regional buy box prices and selling above the buy box that Jim, you were kind of started talking about in this community much more heavily on. It's, to me, as we move forward, judging Keepa charts, it's more what looks like a good quality ASIN. What are the data points that we can put into the product finder to pull back high quality charts that look good, that we can potentially either sell above the buy box, we can judge based on the velocity. And I think there's so many different opportunities for that. I get more and more excited about the detail that we can put into the Keepa product finder to pull back high quality ASINs. And I'm just, I don't see how this is going to make a huge difference in people's businesses. It'll make a small difference in newer seller businesses, I think. But ultimately, moving forward, it's more about how do you recognize a good Keepa chart, and how do you recognize when you try to list above the buy box, and how do you safeguard yourself after that, which is just making sure you're not going to get stuck with a slow moving ASIN that you drop the price on and can't sell out of.
Yeah. I absolutely agree, Brian.
Yeah, I was just going to say that you're right. It's not instead of like looking here, we're going to look there. It's not that much of a change. The reason I thought it was important that we have this conversation is because we've kind of drilled sales rank drops as the primary indicator of sales velocity, and we do that for a reason, right? The last thing we want a new seller to have to feel like is that they need to know all 4,700 points of data that exist in Keepa. And Jimmy, you alluded to some of these other indicators, right, of sales velocity, whether it's reviews, whether it's offer count movement, whether it's inventory that's going in and out of stock, whether price is holding steady even when or maybe rank is holding steady even when there is no buy box or things appear out of stock or whatever. That, as a newer seller, can be like, holy smokes. I mean, just looking at a Keepa chart can blow a lot of people's minds. So we tried to narrow it down to just like 3 main things that you need to focus on. And we can keep it there. The one slight change is, instead of looking at drops, we're going to look at sold in as the data point. And then as you get more experience, you'll start to incorporate these other indicators into your playbook. But it's hard to kind of know what they are, what they mean, and how to value them until you actually have product in, right? When you're on an ASIN and you see yourself in the inventory list, and then you start looking at the, all the different facets that exist in Keepa, then it becomes a lot more meaningful. And, to look at all those things before you have inventory in there until you've sold, a decent number, had a decent number of successful transactions, is hard to sort of absorb it all. But thankfully, Amazon still made it easy, and Keepa is Amazon's our source of truth. Whatever we can get from there, Keepa's adjacent, right, as close as they can get to it. And so we've relied heavily on Keepa, because while Amazon provides that information, sometimes on the listing page or via the API, Keepa makes it far more easily to consume. And so that's why we like Keepa so much, because it gives us,
give you the history as well.
Yeah.
Amazon gives you the snapshot.
Right.
Here's the buy box right now. Here's the sales rank right now. Well, Keepa's tracking that. That's why they're so valuable. It's their data that makes Keepa so valuable. Then you can search it. Say, show me all the ASINs that have these character traits in common over the last 9 months. Like, that's what makes it so valuable. Amazon just won't do that for you. They don't make it easy to do that anyway. Hey, sorry for the interruption. We'll get back to the episode in just a moment. I've got to tell you about today's great sponsor. You can find them at silentjimdotcom/buy or sell. And just like it sounds like, they can help you buy or sell an Amazon account. That's something you certainly do not want to do on your own. Never attempt a private transaction buying or selling an Amazon business. There's all kinds of ways you could mess it up. But there's a true pro, Aaron and his team at silentjimdotcom/buy or sell. They've been working with us for almost 4 years now. And they've helped hundreds of sellers buy seasoned Amazon accounts that help them with cash flow, category approvals, faster payouts, higher FBA inventory levels, limits, that sort of thing, solid reputations within Amazon's account scoring system. There's all kinds of reasons why you might want to consider buying an account. And also, if you've got an unused account, maybe you have more than one, you want to get rid of one, maybe you're taking a break from Amazon for a while, you've got a spare account, hey, you can reach out to them. They'll pay top dollar for your used Amazon selling accounts, and do it the right way so that you're not violating any policies. You can reach out to them at silentjim.com/buy or sell. Tell them we sent you. Thank them for being a great sponsor of this podcast. And let's get back to today's episode. That's what makes it so valuable. Amazon just won't do that for you. They don't make it easy to do that anyway.
Just to get a little nerdy on it, Jimmy, you talked about the inventory changes. I wish there was a way that we could report or filter on stock levels of offers. That would be like the real money. And maybe there's a way via the Keepa API, but it doesn't exist in the Keepa product finder at this time. So we'll keep our eyes out for that.
Make a little video demoing your dream features, and Keepa has been pretty responsive to us lately. We've added, as you know, Brian, you've helped shape out some of these changes that we've requested from them, and they're very interested in serving our community. To my knowledge, we've referred more Keepa users than anyone to Keepa, so we've got their attention. So make a little video. That's what I've been telling people who have ideas for how Keepa could be better, and we'll send it over to them. Who knows? They may be able to. They love massaging data and giving it back to us in a friendly way. That would be a powerful metric to monitor for sure. Total inventory stock levels. Although we all know that Amazon lies. Amazon will say they have, what's the number they always use? When they really have 10,000 units, but let's say they will have 12. Is it 12? You know what I'm talking about?
I usually see 1,000 on the ones.
Yeah, it's usually 1,000 plus.
Yeah. Or they're, even when they're low inventory, they'll have a number there that's not accurate. Let's say they're down to just 50 units. They use the number 12. It seems like it's the number. I can't remember what number it is, but anyway, if Amazon's not reporting accurate inventory levels, that'll have to be factored out or factored in depending on how you want to look at it. But the inventory levels of all the other sellers, they're pretty spot on. If it's FBA, right? That's a good thing to know. And then what those trends are over time. Good to know.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just off the top of my head, I didn't do this beforehand, but I was just trying to write down the different ways that I think you can judge velocity using Keepa's product finder specifically. And I think just off the top of my head, there's 7 that I can come up with. So one would be drop percentages. I think that that's going to be a key metric that a lot of people can get confused over. It's a little bit more detailed, but there's definitely some training out there for it that I've done. And I'm happy to provide more in the community if needed. Your slippability, which is that newer feature that came out a few months ago. You can utilize that to see kind of the flippable options that exist out there. Now, some of that is more pricing related, but if you can use that with some of the other factors here, I think that it will make a difference.
Yeah, that's
there's sales rank.
There's Keepa field, right? The flippability, the field inside Keepa, they've introduced that at the same time as standard deviation, if I remember right.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Now those are more pricing related, but if you can use those to your advantage to find good pricing opportunities, then I think that there's a way to use it. Reviews, inventory levels. Let me see, what else did I put here? Oh, the new offer count changing and drop percentages with the new offer count.
How many sellers there are?
Month. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can combine these things. So it may be a little bit more complex for newer sellers if they want to get into some of those things, but we can still kind of go back to the sales rank philosophy that Brian had mentioned and the bought in the past month as a way that we can train newer sellers specifically on how to find fast moving products or faster moving products. Yeah,
great stuff. This is a very practical podcast for people, I would say, who are at month 3 or more of their journey. So if you're brand new, sorry, we didn't mean to nerd out and lose you today. Most of our episodes are very newbie friendly. This one kind of probably wasn't. I'm going to stop trying to make it so, because there's a lot of nuance to this and a lot of acronyms and things. But get into the Proven Amazon course. We'll hold you by the hand. That's a friendly tip for newbies. But Brian, if you're ready to put a button on this conversation, I don't want to cut you off, but there's one other thing. I'm going to throw this at you cold. You don't even know this is coming, but I really want to have some fun with the topic for just a second. 2 things actually I want to do since I've got both of you here. But any final comments on the changes in how Amazon's reporting rank drop and rank changes?
That's the cold question.
What's that?
You wanted me to do that before you do the cold question?
Is there anything else we wanted to add before? Because this is a bit of a topic shift coming.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, like, the intention here, from what I can gather by Amazon, is to really try and level the playing field so that there's less reliance on gaming the system, right? It's focused on how real buyers are acting, not necessarily about, keyword stuffing, or I ran, 14 ad campaigns on this one product and I figured out how to get more traffic there or get a higher rank temporarily. It's really focusing on strong listings that do have legit demand, right? And solid seller performance. So we're going to be rewarded as, let's say you're in private label or brand management, or even doing some non-consumable bundles, that you're going to get sort of rewarded for bringing traffic outside of Amazon to Amazon, right? But it doesn't really affect us in the reseller game. It is focused on the how these listings perform based on buyer intention. And if the product that you're reselling for a particular keyword or phrase is ranked in the top 10, what this means is it's more likely to stay in the top 10. It's not going to be subject to someone trying to launch something in there and get into that top 10 ranking space. So I'll just say this: don't panic if you're looking at Keepa charts like me and going, why does this look strange? How come there's not as many drops, right? Like you were saying, Jim, you put the filter on and we're getting fewer and fewer results. So zero in more on that sold in the last 30. And when you feel more comfortable with Keepa because you've got some experience, then start integrating some of these, I don't want to call them more advanced, but certainly more intermediate type indicators that Jimmy's talking about.
Yeah, I completely agree. It reminds me a lot of the way that people will say, yeah, I have a best-selling book on Amazon, because they launch it, they sell 500 copies the first day, 300 were to their mom and they reimburse them. And they shoot to the top, and then they're never to be seen again in the top 100, right? But they got that. And for so long, Amazon's algorithm has kind of rewarded those kind of spikes in activity and paid ads or whatever. Like, they're going to smooth those lines out now. You got to stay in the top 10 consistently for a while to earn that position. Same with the top 100, same with the top 1,000, right? They're kind of smoothing those lines out. That's a great way, I think, to maybe illustrate what's going on. And just a truer, more accurate ranking system that's harder to manipulate. Very well done. Speaking of books, how about we just do a quick plug for the new book that you guys have? Brian and Robin Joy have produced a new book. Fill us in a little bit. We did a podcast episode not too long ago, but there you go. Got a copy handy. I love it. And my signed copy's got to be on the way at some point, right?
So we're working on it's a different layout for the hardback. And so Robin's tweaking that layout right now, and then we'll get you a signed copy. Of course, Jim, you can have a signed copy.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for asking about it. Here's the thing, Jim, just nothing ever goes or remains the same, right? And to be honest, when we wrote this is based on our 3-step check methodology and what we teach our coaching students and what we teach in the workshop. And step 1 of the 3-step check is velocity check, right? So check sales velocity. And the way that we put in here originally was sales rank drops. So we've had to revise this, and this is one of the joys of working. Like, I can't remember exactly when the deadline is, where we have to have everything submitted before the actual launch on July 31st, which is only about 15 days away at this point. I think we still probably got a week or so before that is. So here we didn't reference sales rank drops, like Jimmy mentioned before we started recording, that in some of his earlier coursework, like, he does reference drops, but he didn't put a hard number on it. We had, because we didn't want new sellers to get caught in that situation you were describing, where it doesn't matter how low you take your price, you can't sell it, and then you get a bad taste in your mouth, right? So we did have to tweak that a little bit in a couple of sections of the book. But otherwise, everything else, because we try and stay as close to the sources of truth as we can, is unchanged. So thanks for asking.
Yeah, of course. And what's the website you guys set up for that?
It's called officialolsons.com. That's all O's in that name.
Official Olsons, all O's. Yes.
Yep, that's right. And you'll be able to go ahead and sign up before the release date, and we'll include you in a live call that we'll do shortly after the launch, where we're going to go through all of the supplemental materials that are included, and do a drawing for a 30-minute strategy session. And we're also launching this cool thing called On Demand Olsons, which is AI agent in action. It basically will reference everything that is in the book. Not everything. Like, you ask it a question and it'll give you an answer from the book. And it's like in our tone and everything. It's not a talking head necessarily, but the way our tone hopefully comes through in the book, and you'll kind of get that same sense when you're talking with that piece of
That's really
technology.
cool. And that actually is, and we're not going to spend a lot of time, not as much time as we want to spend, but that was actually the other pivot point topic I wanted to bring up, because we had someone ask in the Facebook group not long ago, and Brian, you're coming at this cold, man. I give you no warning at all, but hey, you're a leader around here, so we can handle this. Let's have some fun. Because it's very rare that leaders on our team kind of have an opposing viewpoint, and we kind of shift and shape each other's view on things. And so the topic that I want to just spend a couple minutes on, then I'll let you guys go, and maybe we'll do a whole segment on it some other time, but is AI going to change the way we find good products as resellers at some point? And my initial answer is no, because it's such a can of worms, and I especially don't want newbies trying to find that perfect prompt. Hey, Grok, tell me exactly what products to go buy based on all the training in the proven Amazon course. Like, you're not going to come up with a good list. It's not there. It's not like that. There's many factors that go into making a good decision: your risk profile, how much money you have to spend, where you're at in your journey. And plus, Grok's going to want to look at drops and like these specific data points. I don't think it can handle the nuance of the decision yet, AI. And that's kind of my initial take. And I don't think you and I are on completely opposite pages. And I want to hear Jimmy's input too. He's probably spent some time on this as well. But you had a slightly different answer. You think there's some cool developments coming. And I know that you put your book into AI format, so it could be of use to people. But I'm not necessarily talking about that. I'm talking about helping you make a good purchasing decision if you're a reseller specifically. What's your initial thoughts on that topic?
So I'll just say you touched on it. There's a lot of nuance to making a decision about whether you're going to test a product, whether you're going to replenish a product, whether you're even going to consider a product listing. And so an AI works, except for when it hallucinates, it works in a pretty black and white, way. So if you were to give it some data points and say, should I, based on my, criteria, would I test this, replenish it, or even consider selling it? It's going to give you an answer based on the criteria that you gave it. So if your criteria is wrong or bad or off a little bit, then it's not going to give you a great answer. What I did with that Facebook post was really interesting to me, because I had previously queried, we're ChatGPT. I don't use Grok, not yet anyway, but we may get there. But the reason it was really interesting to me, because I had previously inquired ChatGPT, could it, interpret images, and if I provided some supplemental criteria, would it be able to give me feedback? And he's like, oh yeah, totally. So when this question came up in the Facebook, I took that over there and I gave it a couple of examples of charts, and I said, assume my break-even cost is this, and that here's my velocity requirements and here's my potential profit requirements. Would this pass my test? And it was right on one and wrong on the other. And it was right on one because it was very clear, like there was a pretty big gap between what my break-even price is and where the thing had been consistently selling. It was wrong on the other one when the numbers were really close together, because it can't hover over a Keepa chart, right, and get the actual value. It's estimating based on the legend and the axis values that are there.
Right. So just a quick visual snapshot, not seeing the finer point in detail, which requires, like you said, hovering over, selecting a slightly thinner slice of the pie that you can zoom in on. That kind of nerdy stuff that, when you're trying not to make any mistakes and you're trying to find the best ASINs, you get better over time at these things.
And I want Jimmy's take on this too, but before I hand over the mic, I just want to say I do think there's a place for AI, and I think I'm like 99% sure it's already being used, right? We've got all these third-party tools that we use throughout the community, and I know they're leveraging AI to go get data and bring it into a system that we then query for additional decision points. So it's being used there. I don't know that it's being used necessarily in decision making, but it's certainly being used in information and data gathering.
Yeah. So my perspective, I'm going to address two things. First will be AI just in general. Jim, you may not realize that I posted it in the Replens Facebook group the other day, my 7 AI prompts for Amazon sellers, but that's mainly for written stuff, right? That's not for sourcing. That was the video was on, case creation and account health and how do you reach out to wholesale suppliers to get accounts, et cetera. So AI in and of itself is being used heavily, I would say right now. Now, in terms of sourcing, I have seen tools that have come out that are AI for finding suppliers on a particular product page. So if you're on an Amazon ASIN on amazon.com and you click the button, it'll find 10 or 12 other suppliers using AI that are selling this. It's not exactly verifying those suppliers for you. So you still have to do some of that manual work to ensure that they're legitimate. But right. There is some use case there. I don't think right now it is replacing any sourcing, but I do think in the future, it has a very high likelihood that there's going to be a company or multiple companies that train an AI to essentially just take data from Keepa's API, as well as to go out and find a supplier for different ASINs and to look at the profitability calculator from Amazon, and they'll be able to probably with 80% accuracy, find some really good ASINs. That's my guess. And I even think right now, I've built a couple of Chrome extensions using ChatGPT that work great for me. I think that I could go to ChatGPT. In fact, I've asked it if I gave it Keepa's API in some way, could it evaluate ASINs for me? And it gave me information for how to do that. I would need another software tool, but it's getting close. So I think there's definitely a way that in the next year or two, we're going to be seeing a lot more AI tools, even more than we do now with repricing and other things like that.
It's such a fun topic, man. I'm going to probably stay on the hill of, I don't think it's going to have as big of an impact as some people are hoping, specifically in regards to helping us choose good inventory. And here's, I think, my strongest argument. AI can regurgitate facts and data based on facts and data that it's already been exposed to, but it can't predict human behavior. For example, I don't know if either one of you guys were in the Amazon game yet when Pie Face was kind of the toy of the year for Christmas. Do you guys remember Pie Face?
Yeah, I do.
Were you selling yet at that point?
No, I don't think
I don't think I sold it. Maybe a couple.
We got before that, we got Cabbage Patch Kids, we got Beanie Babies, we got all the examples over the years, right? Pie Face was a big Amazon sensation one year. Had you been using an AI tool, it would have said, go get all of it you can, because this thing is rocking. But then it fell off a cliff. It went from being cool one week to being totally uncool about mid-February, and no one was buying it anymore. And I know many sellers who cleared the shelves and sought it out everywhere they could get it, because that is a smoking hot ASIN that makes sense to get into for everyone. And people had hundreds, in some cases thousands of units of this product, and it stopped being cool because you can't predict human behavior. And it wasn't necessarily a saturation thing. It was just like, it was cool last week and now it's not, and no one's talking about it. That video went viral and now no one's watching it suddenly. You can't predict that stuff. It doesn't matter how much AI you use. So it's never going to be able to completely eliminate the risk of putting your money out there into certain inventory and hoping human behavior stays consistent based on past patterns, right? You just can't. You can't do that. And computers will never buy from computers. It's always going to be people buying from people, and people are irrational. They make emotion-based decisions. AI will never be able to account for that. So there's always going to be that edge of instinct and risk. And now here's all the facts. Now you got to make a decision, right? You got to flip a coin. You got to, whatever your method is. But the more informed you are, the better. So that's kind of my take. AI is going to do a lot of things for us, but it's never going to eliminate the risk and completely make good decisions for us consistently based on reselling. But to your point, Jimmy, yeah, tools are starting to integrate it. I even know in 3P Mercury, we've got with our above buy box, we're going to kind of call it an AI thing because it kind of is doing some things that would take you quite a while to do as a human. And we're going to automate it. So why not call it AI, right? But yeah, fun topic for sure. And I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but maybe we got people thinking along those lines. Hey, we haven't ignored the topic at this point. We can at least say that, right? So any final thoughts on that one? That was fun, guys.
I would say, from an AI standpoint, I agree. Even if a software tool did come out and every seller flooded that software tool, well, then all the things that it tells you to buy is just going to be, price taking.
Right. Human behavior. People are going to overreact to the advice and buy way too many units, and the price is going to tank, and AI can't predict that, right?
Exactly. And I think right now, sellers should be curious about it. New sellers should probably ignore it a little bit until they get to some level of baseline in their business. But you should still be curious as your business starts to grow on how it can best help you with productivity. My biggest thing with AI is how do you use it without removing your own mental faculties to think, because you still want to be able to think for yourself. You still want to, just have the foundational understanding of how to do this stuff without AI. But as you're growing and expanding your business, use it for productivity. There's tons of tools coming out, especially for private label, wholesale sellers, a lot of different ways that you can use just basic AI programs to help your business. That's probably my final thoughts on it, is just how do you add it in, be a little bit more productive, and not be ultra reliant on one AI tool or even multiple of them.
Yeah, I agree with that, Jimmy. It is coming, but it's not doing the hard decision making at this point. It may be doing some data gathering, and you, as the business owner, or part of your role in your business, you still have to quality check all this stuff anyway, right? I think that's always going to be the case. For me, when it comes to AI, what I found is that it is really awesome at listening to me ramble. And I have recently switched over from typing because I spend way too much time on the backspace key to talking to it, right? And then it does a great job of organizing my thoughts. And then I realize I already do have a framework for this, or I am thinking about it in this structured way. Or yes, here's my standard operating procedure, right? For example, one of the sessions I love to do is kind of, what does your profitability look like when I'm coaching? I say one of the sessions I like to do is like, how do we improve your profitability? And we'll get all the data points that, come out of Seller Board or Seller Central or Inventory Lab, whatever, and then we'll do some analysis on that. And I haven't done it yet, but if I turn AI loose on the content or the context of those sessions, it's very clearly going to outline what my framework is for that I take every single time. And it's just ingrained in me. I don't even think about it anymore. But it makes me feel better about that I do have a lot of cool thoughts. They're just so jumbled in my head usually that if I can give it to AI, it'll help me organize it and, be a much more effective communicator when I'm talking about that in the future.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun episode, or maybe even a series of episodes, because we've just kind of tapped the, tip of the iceberg of the ways you can use AI in e-commerce or Amazon. You listed 7 recently in an episode that you did on your YouTube channel, Jimmy. And there's going to be a book. There's a lot of ways you can do, but specifically making decisions about what I should and shouldn't buy as a reseller. I think we're a long ways off, and you'll always have to use your instincts and risk tolerance. And, only you can take the leap. AI can't take the leap for you as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Good topic, guys. Lots of fun. And if it wasn't the end of a very long day, I probably would have some more brilliant insights and tips, but I think I'm done.
Yeah.
I had a long day.
Yeah.
I know you guys did as well. It's the end of the day for all of us. So
yeah.
I really appreciate you guys being here and being a part of this great discussion. We covered a lot of good stuff today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us, Jim. Great to see you both.
Well, see you both on the podcast and around the community. And I think this episode is going to serve the listeners very well. And for those who hung out with us today, hey, please know this. Again, I mentioned it earlier, but if you're new around here, this isn't a typical episode. We got a little nerdy. We got in a little deep today. If you're looking for just newbie-friendly content or encouragement, very specific tips and strategies for growing your business, we've got hundreds of great episodes. Scroll back in time. We'd love to serve you well with our podcast. Thanks for helping make it the #1 podcast for Amazon sellers. That's pretty cool. You guys voted, and there we are, top of the industry. We want to keep that spot. Jimmy contributes all the time. Brian and Robin Joy contribute all the time. It's a team effort around here, but you're the most important part, the listener. We're so grateful for you. We'll have more good episodes for you very soon. Thanks for being here. Bye for now. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us for today's show. One last thing before I let you go, I want to thank our sponsor for today's episode. It's our good friends at silentjimdotcom/buy or sell. That's right. They can help you buy a seasoned Amazon selling account, or if you've got an extra account, they can help you sell it. If you're done selling on Amazon, taking a break for a while, you've got an extra account, they can help you navigate the waters of selling a business associated with an Amazon seller account, making sure that you do it in accordance with Amazon's policies so that everyone's happy on both ends of the transaction well after the transaction occurs. They're true pros. They've helped hundreds of people in our community buy and sell accounts. The link again, silentjim.com/buy or sell. Talk to Aaron. Tell them that we sent you, and they'll give you the best possible deal. They love taking care of our listeners to this show. They're one of our great sponsors. Tell them we appreciate them when you talk to them. And thanks for joining us for today's episode. We'll have another great episode for you very soon.